In October 1989, 18-year-old Rachel Cox embarked on her first caving adventure at Wind Cave National Park in South Dakota. Rachel, along with a group of college students, had come to participate in a mock search and rescue exercise. This was not just an ordinary hike in the mountains, but an intense activity where the students would explore the caves, testing their knowledge of safety procedures, teamwork, and survival skills. The exercise was designed to mimic a real-life rescue mission, and the students were tasked with finding their instructors who had scattered themselves in various parts of the cave. This is the tragic story of Rachel Cox. For 2 weeks, the students explored the labyrinth passages of Wind Cave, one of the longest caves in the world. The cave is famous for its narrow tunnels and complicated structure, making it an excellent location for training and simulations. On this particular day, Rachel and her teammates were deep in the cave, preparing for the final exercise. The plan was simple: split into teams and search for the hidden instructors who were waiting to be rescued. After hours of crawling through the cave's tunnels, Rachel thought she heard the voice of one of the instructors laughing from a nearby passage. The team had split into smaller groups, racing to find the instructors who were strategically hiding in different parts of the cave. Rachel was convinced that the instructor was nearby, and she urged her team to continue in that direction. The others hesitated, but eventually agreed, leaving their backpacks behind as they crawled further through the narrow, dark tunnels. However, when they reached the spot where Rachel thought the instructor was, there was no one there. The passage was empty. Rachel's teammate, frustrated by the detour, criticized her decision and decided to head back. Rachel, equally annoyed, paused for a moment, but after a brief hesitation, she began to follow him back to the main group. That's when disaster struck. As Rachel prepared to follow her teammate back, her lamp suddenly went out. The cave, already dark and claustrophobic, was now completely pitch black. Her heart began to race as she realized the severity of her situation. She had failed to check the fuel in her lamp, and now it was empty. In the dark, cold silence, she cursed herself for not being more careful. But there was no time to dwell on her mistake. She needed to think quickly. Rachel remembered the advice she had received during her training. Stay put and wait for help if you get lost. So, she decided to stay where she was, hoping that her team would soon come to find her. But as time passed, her anxiety grew. The cave's passages were twisting and confusing, and Rachel began to realize that waiting in place might not be the best decision. After a while, she decided to try to retrace her steps. She crawled back through the tunnel, feeling for the opening she had originally passed through, but when she emerged from the narrow passage, she found herself in an unfamiliar part of the cave. She had gone deeper, even further from the exit, with no working lamp, no backpack, and no way to navigate her way out. Rachel's situation was dire. She was trapped in a vast, complex cave system with no food, no water, and no warmth. She knew that hypothermia was the biggest threat she faced, and her mind began to race as she considered her options. But she knew that staying still would only make things worse. Desperately, Rachel began shouting for help, banging her lamp against the cave walls to create noise. She sang songs, hoping that someone would hear her. At one point, she even recited lines from Shakespeare's As You Like It, trying to keep her mind occupied and calm as she waited for help that might never come. Her voice echoed eerily in the dark, but there was no answer. He followed the sound and, after a few tense moments, finally found Rachel. She had been shouting and banging her lamp against the cave walls in a desperate attempt to be heard. Rachel was disoriented, weak, and dehydrated, but she was alive. She remembered seeing a light approaching and a man with a beard asking, "Rachel, are you ready to leave now?" She was so confused by the appearance of the rescuer that she asked, "Are you God?" The rescue team carefully pulled her out of the cave, taking great care to avoid further harm. It took them another 2 hours to get her safely to the surface. The relief on his face was evident, and Rachel felt a flood of emotions, from exhaustion to gratitude. The next day, Rachel returned to the campsite where the group had been staying. Despite being physically fine, she felt a deep sense of shame. She couldn't stop thinking about the mistakes she had made, the poor decisions that had led to the massive search operation. She also worried about the potential damage caused to the fragile cave environment. The search had been extensive, and the rescue effort had likely disturbed the delicate ecosystem of the cave. For years, Rachel would reflect on the event, believing that being trapped in the cave was the most traumatic experience she would ever face. But over time, she came to understand that the experience had changed her life in ways she hadn't anticipated. It taught her valuable lessons about survival, the importance of preparation, and the necessity of staying calm under pressure. Looking back, Rachel realized that her time in the cave had been a test of both her physical endurance and her mental resilience. It was an event that would shape her life and become a story she would share with others. One that would serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of venturing into the unknown without fully understanding the risks. In the years that followed, Rachel found herself often reflecting on the rescue operation, the voices she heard, and the strange visions that had come to her in the darkness. These moments of confusion and fear, however frightening at the time, were now part of her story, one that she would carry with her for the rest of her life. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more gripping tales from the underwater world. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do in a situation like this? Until next time, stay safe, explore wisely, and always respect the depths.